I'm here speaking on behalf of the Education and Training Foundation, and you may well have been aware of the Training Foundation. You may even have interacted with us, but just in case you haven't, just to tell you what we're about, we're a national organisation covering all the regions of England, funded by the DFE, and we are here to provide professional development for the workforce, so that helps you to deliver excellence in further education and vocational education and training. So basically helping you to ensure that each and every one of your learners, apprentices, achieves to their full potential. And obviously equality, diversity, inclusion is a key and central part of that, and that we do have a specific EDI strategy for that. So today I'm here to talk about particular programmes that promote that, and in particular, this is, an annoying slide, that I don't know why it's doing this. Anyway, I wanted to talk plan to talk about two particular programmes, the Future Apprenticeship programmes and the SEND programme, but I've been somewhat embarrassed by colleagues remembering that actually we do so much more. So we also have an offender learning programme that I know that our colleagues from People Plus have been involved with, and offers lots and lots of resources that will support you in supporting offenders. We also have, as Hifsa said, our Prevent programme, but what I would urge you to do is go and have a look at the Education and Training Foundation website, because there is masses of stuff on it. So have a look. But just to talk you through really these two programmes. The other thing, just going back to the website, if you go onto the website, the website will also take you into the Excellence Gateway for these programmes and other programmes, where there is a whole load of resources, free resources, like a big library of resources that you can read, reports, toolkits, etc. It will take you through to some programmes like the SEND programme, the Offender Learning programme, have specific what we call exhibition sites, where everything is pulled together so they're in one place for you to look at. We also have Foundation Online, which is our online learning portal, so you can go on there and look at free to access courses and to do courses. And we also have CPD, a whole range of CPD opportunities that you can access through our booking system. There is, out of necessity, a need to charge for some of those CPD opportunities, but what I would urge you to look at is to look at the bursaries. We offer a range of bursaries for providers, particularly smaller providers, or from staff who come from maybe some of those protected characteristics, so that we can promote more equal access to our own CPD and hopefully become more representative across the sector ourselves. So moving on, I'll talk about the Future Apprenticeship programme, which I hope you're aware of, but just in case you're not, the Future Apprenticeship programme offers a portal that provides provider toolkits, courses, support for leaders, managers and governors of apprenticeships, webinars, a regular programme of webinars, guidance on provider readiness and support to move to endpoint assessment. But within that programme and that massive programme of Future Apprenticeships, obviously one of the things that we had was noticed and recognised was the challenge around promoting equality, diversity and inclusion in apprenticeships. And so out of that there was a Future Apprenticeship Task and Finish group, which was looking at the challenges around supporting apprentices, diversity in apprenticeships, and particularly looking at the needs of apprentices with disabilities and learning difficulties. But it does also look at good practice and case studies. And what I perhaps should have said was that the way that the foundation works is through commissioning work to deliver all that we deliver through a whole diversity of delivery partners. But actually, and I think what strengthens the do is how much we do of that in collaboration with sector providers. And that's partly about listening to the needs and challenges of the whole sector, but it's also about showcasing good practice within the sector, so that we are sharing ideas, sharing solutions, and hopefully inspiring others to do what other providers are doing, and to do it always better and continuously improve. And this is what this report does. It's about showcasing that particular practice. Also, within the Future Apprenticeship portal, you will see links to an EDI online course in supporting greater diversity in apprenticeships. It's free to access for staff. It's primarily aimed at frontline staff. It takes about 2 hours to complete. And I would think it's probably fair to say that it's fairly high level because it actually looks at how you support all apprentices who identify with all of the 9 protected grounds through their apprenticeship, right from the start and to kind of endpoint assessment and beyond. So I would recommend doing that. But as I said, it's a fairly high level course. And obviously with the I was going to say complexity, if you like, but the kind of wealth of needs there, it's not going to go in depth to anything. And so recognising that, what they also commissioned was a particular set of courses that surround mental health. And this was about acknowledging that mental health within the FE sector is increasingly becoming of concern to a whole range of providers and is an issue for providers, people themselves obviously, and staff who are working with them. And came as a result of some research, again, talking to providers about what were their issues, where was their good practice, etc. And one of the things that we know is that the ability to meet the needs of apprentices with mental health problems is very patchy across the sector. Some providers doing it well, others not so. And actually also patchy within some organisations, some bits of organisations doing well, but it's not consistent. And one of the things that was very much a key issue was that it's very much about, at this stage, still very much an issue, dependent upon the confidence, if you like, and skills of individual staff and how comfortable they felt about being able to talk to apprentices about their mental well-being. And where that didn't happen, and it didn't happen at recruitment, and it didn't happen throughout that, is that a lot of the mental health and well-being needs of apprentices was being overlooked and not being met, their needs not being met, and issues and situations coming up were not being, until it reached a crisis, until employers were phoning up and saying, I think this is about to fall apart, can't cope with this, or whatever. And obviously there is a kind of, if you like, a moral an ethical case for dealing with that and for making it so that we don't reach that crisis state, because it's hugely distressing for everybody. But actually there is also a very strong business case. We should not, it's wasteful of time and energy and causes so much damage. So as a result of that research, we have developed 3 modules, again, free to access, don't take too long to complete, and they're aimed at all staff, about promoting positive mental well-being for all, about how you create whole organisational approaches to mental health, small changes, big differences, that it's not about becoming mental health experts, it's often about small changes to the way that you do things in a classroom or with an employer or etc. that can make such a big difference to apprentices, and then just generally about how you might talk about mental health. And again, it's not about becoming a mental health expert as such, but it's about building confidence, promoting well-being, etc., and resilience. It's got lots and lots of testimonies from people in the side, from providers in the sector, but there are also 3 case studies and that we looked at in particular, and the one that I was particularly taken by was from CITB, and mostly because, and I think the gentleman from People Plus talked about intersection, and one of the things we need to recognise more is that intersection between other equality and diversity factors and mental health. And they were talking a lot about young men who find it so hard to talk about distress and mental distress. And in a male-dominated industry like construction, that's a huge issue. And it's a huge issue in society because of the rates of suicide in young men. But and CITB have talked about how they deal with that. So, moving on, I want to talk about the SEND programme now. This is a programme that was funded by the department, well, still is being funded by the Department for Education, funded last year. What I should say, and what I would stress here, is that this is not about, it is about all learners with special educational needs and disabilities, but people often make the assumption that it's about young people who have education and healthcare plans, and it's not. It is primarily focused at the majority of young people and learners who have special educational needs, who do not have education and healthcare plans, and many of those young people are not having their needs recognised or met. So it's very much around how we support providers across the whole sector to work with those types of learners. We have, as I said, a SEND webpage where you can access lots of information, specifically the SEND exhibition site, which you can go into and look at lots of different resources. We have some really excellent leadership videos around the importance of whole organisation approaches to supporting learners, and when I say learners, I mean apprentices as well, around with SEND, some briefing papers and lots of other resources aimed at practitioners. If you go onto the Foundation online, we also have an organisational effectiveness self-assessment tool that you can look at how your organisation is doing to meet the needs of learners with SEND, and we also have a practitioner self-assessment toolkit, which is aimed at anybody who is new to teaching, who might be working in a vocational area, who might 2 weeks before have been working on a building site or in a hairdresser's, now finds themselves teaching, to somebody who is ready to and wanting to do a level 5 qualification in teaching and learning in SEND. So we have all those resources that were developed last year that I'd urge you to have a look at. This year, our challenge, I think, is much more to engage around training providers, and particularly around the kind of pathways to employment and apprenticeships, of course. I think it's fair to say that when you look at last year, it was predominantly accessed, the programme was predominantly accessed by colleges, and possibly because of the SEND Reform Acts and the Code of Practice, but we need to engage much more with training providers, and I'm really pleased that this programme is delivered by a whole host of delivery partners, and we have on board the Association for Education and Learning Providers, ALP, who are helping us to deliver the strand of the programme around leadership and governance. So they have some CPD events coming up in September. They will also be looking at case studies and briefing sheets. We also have 2 other delivery partners, ACER and NatSpec, are delivering the study programmes strand of work for us, and they are just about recruiting at the moment to 15 cluster groups looking at how to improve the delivery of study programmes. And what they want to do is look at things like progression onto apprenticeships and employment. They want to look at things like using assistive technology and maths and English. So trying to be kind of quite creative in the curriculum development of study programmes. We're also in the process of developing 2 IAG modules, one of which will be around using support to help young people into employment. So we'll cover things like access to work, job carving, job brokerage, apprenticeships, etc. But all the different schemes and support and coordination of how you do that to support young people who have learning difficulties and disabilities in the workplace. And secondly, IAG practitioner skills. How do you work with young people who may have special educational needs and disabilities, who may communicate in a different way, or who may have kind of different needs, and how do you work and engage, make sure that they have a really learner-centred decision-making process, and they're not just responding to what other people think that they should do. And finally, all of this is underpinned by an evaluation where we do case studies of impact. So that's just an example of the work that we're doing around equality in apprenticeships. And my final slide is an action, really, and that's my plea to you and how you can get involved. As I said, our best work is done when it's done in partnership and collaboration with the sector. We need to hear your examples of good practice. We need also to hear where there are challenges for you. So I would urge you that if you are one of those providers that has excellent practice, please do let me know. because we would love to do a case study and showcase that for you, particularly as an apprenticeship provider, because we're really lacking in those good case studies. We also are really keen that our cluster groups for the study programmes should involve training providers, and actually we'd really love it if one of them was led by a training provider. So please, if you haven't seen it, please do apply to become one. The closing date is the 31st of July. Equally, if you have some really good guidance going on, IAG within your organisations, again, love to hear it, because we would want to film it and showcase it. Or indeed, if you're happy to be a case study for our evaluation. So that's my call to action for you, is to, if you're interested and want to get involved, that's my email address, and the etfoundation.co.uk is the website that I talked about. So thank you.
Think apprenticeship. Think pathway.